Hello there. This is it then, day 4 in Washington DC. So, as promised, pretend yesterday, or 10 minutes ago as it's otherwise known, today I did in fact go to the last two museums on the National Mall that I hadn't been to. Apart from the art gallery, I've not been there. Probably would to go there, to be honest. But no, I went to the last two today, and the first was this wonderful little number, the Natural History Museum. Now, in traditional American fashion, there are, of course, many dioramas. I didn't get pictures of all of them because some of them were a little curious. Some of them were quite violent, and I didn't want any sensitive viewers to have to cover their eyes for those bits. I didn't want to have to redact anything. So yes, so the Natural History Museum. Yes, well, this one was bigger than the one in New York, and it feels more complete. But then it is the national one, so I suppose it would do. But yes, a fine selection of animals that were once alive. Personally, I would have preferred to have seen them in their natural habitat, scurrying about, being alive. But in the absence of that, I'm just going to assume that they all died of natural causes and were then put on display. Because I'm naive and rather foolish like that. There was a deer doing yoga, which you will have seen, which was quite impressive, and a sort of ibex that was on top of a cliff. I also managed to find they had quite an extensive gallery on the evolution of humanity, and I managed to find a rather impressive Richard Wilson. Now, if you're not aware who Richard Wilson is, which if you're a foreigner you may not be, Richard Wilson is in fact the man who played Victor Meldrew in One Foot in the Grave, and a very funny man in his own right. I will try and link that picture in again at the appropriate time. They had some very ancient artifacts there from the early days of human history. There's some 35,000-year-old flute, for example, which you will have seen. They also have been a bit lazy because they've made a load of casts of sort of previous human species. And for Homo heidelbergensis, in fact, what they have done, or what I think they have done, is in fact confused Homo heidelbergensis with a Klingon. So the mask that is on display there is actually a Klingon mask from Star Trek. But yes, a wide variety of interesting artifacts in that particular gallery. And then you go into the Ocean Hall. The Ocean Hall is very big and it's very oceanic, as you'd expect. And it's full of skeletons of things that live, things that did live, things that may be living, things that, I don't know, are undead. There's a big zombie whale in there complaining about the cold. Or rather the heat, I suppose, complaining about the cold. But yes, so that was quite impressive too. So, the giant shark mouth, megalodon mouth, which was quite impressive, I have to say. And then they have a gallery on the human genome and the sequencing of the DNA sequence of the genome. And one of the things they have in there is a little art project, which is projecting the entirety of the human genome onto a TV screen, constantly scrolling across. It's going to take a year, they were very pleased to tell us. It's going to take a year to completely do that. So, then there's more skeletons. There's really quite a lot of skeletons in here. They're quite big on the old skeletal bits. There was a dinosaur as well. I think they're doing an exhibit about dinosaurs, but it wasn't finished because the wings seemed to be closed off. But there was a Triceratops there. It was looking a bit miffed, just being a skeleton, as I imagine you would, frankly. They did have a little sort of insect zoo in there as well. I don't know whether it was a temporary thing. I hope it was because their cages weren't very big. Where they had a variety of creepy crawlies ranging from tarantulas, which I'm all right with just as long as they're behind a piece of glass and can't get to me, and various other critters, including honeypot ants and glow-in-the-dark scorpions. Then it was straight through to the gem gallery. Now, the gem gallery is very interesting, unless you don't happen to like gems. If you don't happen to like geology and gems, then just sort of sit there and go, "Ooh, look at all the shinies," because there are a lot of shinies in there, including a rather impressive 20,000 carat crystal, which is enough to sustain the entire rabbit population of Great Britain for at least 4 weeks. So, sorry, that was a really bad joke. That was really contrived. I'm terribly sorry. I now I'm going to go and flagellate myself to try and retain some comic integrity. But yes, they had a variety of interesting jewellery. They seem to have quite a lot from French monarchs. They had a couple of Napoleon's, well, his jewellery, his wives' jewellery, and various bowls and things. And they had a wall full of gold, and then in a sort of tiny little box they had 2 pieces of platinum, which were quite big for being platinum, but still quite small. And they had a Geiger counter. Now, I love a Geiger counter, I do. And whenever I hear the click, click, click of a Geiger counter, I am immediately drawn to it. In this case, it was a Geiger counter with a piece of zircon above it, rotating on a disc, and every time it got closer to the Geiger counter, it beeped even strongly. Yeah, even strongly. So even more strong, wasn't? Words just fail me at this point, clearly. Then there was a quick sort of new. Then I moved on to the Museum of American History. Now, the Museum of American History was very interesting. They had a sort of numismatics bit, where there were a few coins and whatnot, and then they had a very impressive engine room with a lot of steam engines, ranging from actual steam train engines. They had 2 of those, 2 general power generation machines. I realise I'm beginning to sound like I'm presenting an Open University program. I'm sorry about that, but I do get rather excited by a lot of shiny steam engines. So, they weren't actually going round, but they were still impressive nonetheless. I have to say I'm a very big fan of them. I think they've got a real life to them, haven't they? So yes, so a lot of those. Then there was a bit on transport. Now that was linked into the engines bit. Now the transportation bit was very interesting. It had a lot of cars in it, a lot of old cars in it, including an old Ford Model T. Not particularly impressive, but there were a hell of a lot of them around there. But a wide sort of broad overview of American history in automotive history, really, which was very nice. Catch my breath and work out what to say next. Right, so yes, after that there was a big train, a big green train, a big green steam train, which is cool, because big green steam trains are great. As are all steam trains, but big green ones especially. And there was a lot of ships as well. There was a bit on the sort of maritime nature of the United States, which had lots of models of ships like the Mauritania and the USS USS America. That was it, not the USS United States. That would seem a little odd. United States ship, United States. It was a bit circular. So yes, lots of nice models of ships, and then of course you go into the America at War bit, which is all about celebrating you bashing us Brits into a pulp in the Civil War, and then moving on. And they had a lot of old artifacts. They had some of George Washington's old uniforms. They had his George Washington sword, which was very nice, I have to say. A little bit of an odd design, but a very nice blade nonetheless. So, finally, we came to the display where they have a big copy of the Petulant Letter, as we Brits know it, or the Declaration of Independence, as you Americans know it. They had a big copy of that on the wall, which was interesting. I mean, it's rude and ungrateful, but interesting. And, you know, if we got rid of everything that was rude and ungrateful, then, well, we'd be missing a lot of people, wouldn't we? So, the Declaration of Independence, yes, it was quite a clear copy actually. I think it's, I don't know whether it is actually a copy of it because or an original copy rather, because a lot of the original copies are now rather faded. I know there is one in the National Archives over here that is very faded, and you can barely read it anymore. But very interesting nonetheless. There was also a special exhibition on the Star-Spangled Banner. By which I mean the original flag that flew over Fort McHenry. Now, I haven't got any pictures of this because they wouldn't let me take pictures. In fact, they wouldn't let anyone take pictures. It wasn't just me they were singling out on that one. Yes, a rather interesting flag. They had the original Stars and Stripes that flew over Fort St. Henry with its 15 stars and 15 stripes. And then the story of the writing of the lovely national anthem, 2 bits of which I really don't like because they don't scan. And they did neglect, however, they did mention the tune that it was in fact set to, which is the Sons of Archeon, sorry. Now, they did mention that. What they did not mention is that the original song is in fact a British drinking song with rather bawdy lyrics. So I would urge you to look up that, and next time you're standing there proudly with your hand on heart singing your national anthem, just imagine a load of British people in a pub getting pissed singing to the same tune. And that will be most enjoyable for you, I'm sure. So, I think that's about all I can say today. I'm afraid this one has been a little. Actually, thinking back, it's been a little breathy. I don't know why. I'm not intending to turn into a sort of combination of David Attenborough and Russell Brand, getting really eager over things and being breathy, but that's how it turned out. So, tomorrow is my last day in Washington before I leave for Chicago, for sweet home Chicago indeed. So tomorrow I think I'm going to pop along to the Botanical Gardens, which are just off the National Mall, I believe. And I might also drop in on the aquarium. I like a good aquarium. Again, would prefer to see a natural environment, but nevertheless, it's quite nice to see a lot of little fishies. So I think that'll be my tomorrow. And yeah, no music to end this one. I suppose I could give you a rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, but I think I might leave that one till the end. Actually, I think I might do that one as a sort of final thank you, and possibly a sort of oral two fingers. Accidentally, I hasten to add, not on purpose, because I wouldn't do it on purpose, because I'm gradually coming round to the idea of this country. Gradually, it's taking a long time. Seeing the letter today didn't improve things, but I'm gradually coming around to it. So I shall speak to you tomorrow night. I shall try and be less het up tomorrow night, and yes, just yes. That's what I'm going to finish on. Yes.